the ship has sailed on that one for an
so.
old standard looking bald
Maybe
white
they have
dude
a
of the
40
AV.
and above. Maybe a 40
You
and
know
above.
what?
40.
I don't need your pity. I'm not looking for that. It's all right. Like, this is the 40 wrinkly white guys of the AV industry.
You're listening to the AV IT Amplifier. Each week, we'll feature voices and ideas that need to be amplified in the higher education and pro AV IT communities. This show is brought to you by higheredav.com. And now here's your host, Ryan Gray.
Thank you for tuning in to the AV IT Amplifier. Again, my name is Ryan Gray, and I am your host. And if it is Wednesday, you know that your feed has refreshed with a new episode. And I'm very excited today to welcome someone back to the show who has been on before, but is part of a group. And now we get to have her attention all to ourselves, which I think is a treat for me and a treat for you all. So, Kameesha, welcome back to the show. Would you please remind everybody who you are and what you do?
Awesome. Yes. Thank you for having me again. My name is Kameesha Jones. I am a audiovisual project manager for Florida International University, and I also work with the Miami Heat as an audio engineer. So, yes.
So you got your hands full is what we're saying on that.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
All right. I'd love to chat a little bit about both of those things real quick, because there is something I want to get to, and it actually comes from something you said this week. But I love that, you whether it's a side gig or a main gig, aside from your work at Florida International University, you work with the Miami Heat. So what is that experience like? What do you do with them, and what keeps you going, one job, that's for anybody. I'm going 2 jobs.
Usually the Miami Heat is my fun job. It's my creative side where, I'm a host of a small team. It's a broadcasting team where we handle all of the audiovisual in the arena. So, any video walls, any audio from the game feed, from the bathrooms you can hear outside, everything. We're getting the feed from inside the bowl. We have to give it to the major networks such as TNT, ESPN, ABC. And then we also have local artists that come to perform during pregame and also halftime. And we have a team that mixes those bands. I'm a part of that team as well. So, working with the Miami Heat is definitely fun, is rewarding. It's my fun job. I call it my fun job because they definitely do give us a room to create. If we see something that especially makes the fan base experience top notch, they really give us that space to be very creative. So that's why I like, the Miami Heat, because I don't mind the 2 jobs. Because like I said, I have my fun job. Not saying the FIU is not fun. Right. I have more of a corporate gig there and dealing with a lot of board of trustees and departmental. So, it's a diversity there too at FIU. But really, my fun job is definitely the Miami Heat. And also, too, we get to watch the game and talk to the players sometime.
It's a different atmosphere, right? On campus than at an NBA game.
Right, and like last year we made it all the way to the finals, and that was another good thing because it kept us on our toes, because anything that happened or went wrong, we had to. So like during the NBA finals, nobody didn't know, but our press table fell in the middle of it, and we had to run out there and actually fix it. We fixed it with a wrench in that moment, yeah. So we had to make it work, but just things like that. We have to be on standby 24/7. But the perks of it is definitely we get to watch the game. We're close to the players, and we're talking with the players, interacting with the players because they're cool too. They're our coworkers, pretty much. So yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Like I used to do live event stuff like corporate and concerts and stuff before I came into higher ed, and I just remember the adrenaline and the fear when you've got a big audience, a big event, a big thing. So my question is this: how on earth do you keep up with that level of pressure? Or is it just that you formed a team that has the resilience to deal with whatever you have to deal with?
I think it's a bit of both. I've been having to work in AV period. You have to be under pressure when it comes to something goes wrong, especially when you're in a setting where board of trustees and your microphone doesn't work. You have to figure that out within 30 seconds with that problem going wrong. So working on the well of the pressure is that's my bread and butter. That's how I feel let's go. So with that, and also too, we have a team that really handles those problems with so much grace. They're so calm, and we're making sure that we know our stuff. If you know the equipment and you know what you're really doing, that when something happens, we get on it right away. But in the inside, we're freaking out, but we can't let nobody know that. So afterwards, everything is fixed. We be like, woo!
Ooh, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was crazy. But we didn't. We can't alarm anybody. We just have to just head on it. Have on it head on. So it's been cool.
So you've got dates lined up. You know what the schedule is going to be. You know these days. I'm at the arena. I'm there by this time, and I'm going to be there all night most of the time, I bet.
Pretty much, yeah. Usually, I leave my FIU job about 3 o'clock, and I get to the arena about 4. So I'm usually there from like 4 to 11, 4 to midnight, depending on if we have a full strike or if we have to do a half partial strike where they need to change over the court, because we have 3 different type of courts that they put down. So it depends on the type of day or type of night, and also too it depends on how many staff members we have that day too. So.
Wow. Well, that's cool. All right, then let's switching to FIU audiovisual project manager. You've talked a little bit about. I know you're working on a new ballroom setup there. So kind of that project. But what does the stuff you're looking at FIU? What all does that encompass right now?
As far as our renovations, or is just my job title? Period?
And the scope of what's on your plate in terms of the profile of AV at Florida International.
Basically, with me, I have 2 parts. I have events parts, and I also have the project part. So the events part, I am the liaison. So a lot of customers, we have a lot of external clients, especially on my campus, because we have two large campuses, which is the Biscayne Bay campus, which I work at, and the main campus, our Modestic campus. So on our campus, we handle a lot of external clients. So a lot of external clients want to know what our audio visual, what the capacity of it. So right now I'm talking with the client now that wants to bring in their own audio, their own mixer, and their digital board and things like that to hook into ours. So I have to really talk to them to see what their vision is for that event, to see if they cannot bring their own equipment and just use ours, but we have to manage it or we have to run it. So just figuring that out. On the project side, like I said, we have the ballrooms. We just renovated our ballrooms, which took a long time to actually get it approved. So with that comes into play, I'm helping out my AV engineer, which is Rigoberto. So he's there with me to help me understand the system and help me to say, okay, well, if this goes wrong, we know it might be this issue or things like that. Get into the software, get into our speakers and things like that. Talking to manufacturers. Like right now, we have a lighting problem with one of our fixtures for our lighting, and I was just talking with our manufacturer yesterday to tell them what the problem was and what are we getting at. So and also too, inventory. We have a lot of inventory. We have to redo inventory a lot because we are having like I said, have a lot of new equipment that's coming in because of our ballrooms, and also too, we've upgraded a little bit of our rooms, our meeting rooms and our classrooms as well. So with that, I'm also managing that, and also too, I'm managing our student workers. I'm training them. I'm also right now, thanks to Britt and her AV Olympics thing, we're actually implementing that again this year. So just training them at the start of the season, making sure they're up to par, and I'm making sure my schedule and everything is together with that. I mean, that's basically the scope of what I do here at FIU. Lots of hands-on. I'm learning a lot, especially with our new ballroom renovations. And also too, we're having another big building that's about to open up in about 2 years, our chapel. And that right there is a whole nother process. Like, I've never looked at CAD for that much in my life. I was like, wow. So just really, learning design. So it's really cool.
You've got this cross section that covers all. You do management, recruiting, live events, dealing with clients and customers, internal and external, high profile and otherwise, and now, renovation, design, system work. It sounds like is that just a result of you just kind of, being good at what you do and not letting stuff go awry? That it's just like, well, as long as we've got Kameesha on this, it's probably going to come out pretty well.
I mean, it's a lot of things, but also too, I'm very hungry to learn. I want to elevate my skills so that when I do walk into a room and they're asking me questions about, oh, have you ever renovated a ballroom, or have you done that? Yes, I have. I've helped design the ballroom. I helped program this and things like that. So I think too, it's just the hunger that I do have when it comes to certain things and being versatile too. So yeah.
That's awesome. I love that feeling of just like something's going on. Let's go get involved. Let's go.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Let's find out. Let's go.
Let's find out.
Like if I don't go try and steer the ship, someone else is going to steer it, and I'll probably steer it in the wrong direction. So you know what I'm saying?
Pretty much. So yeah,
I do quite a bit of that around here with us and our team. Like I'm out here on a build because same thing. This renovation project is coming to a close, and we're finally in tech install. It's been going on 2 years. We got another one behind that, and it's like, no, we're on the ground of every one of these projects, because if we're not there, someone who doesn't have the eye for AV is going to be making decisions, and we don't want them making those decisions for us.
Exactly. And that's the thing we were tussling with in the beginning of our renovations. People were telling that not AV, and it's just like, we're going to not too much lean on that, because we have to make it logistically. Like, hey, that doesn't work because, like, we had our projectors. Our projector screens coming down a different way, but they wanted to have lights on top of the projectors, and I'm like, that's gonna deflect our image. Like, we can't, like, that doesn't work. So just little things like that, just to say, like, you need a person that's experienced in AV to have that eye.
Yeah, and people, AV across the board, but people who live live events, right? That you live in the audience experience, your user experience day in and day out. So being able to look at plans and things and go, I can put myself in the place of people sitting in a chair in this upcoming ballroom. Yep. And my fidelity is to what's going to happen for them when they get here 2 years from now when this building is done. So that's awesome. That's awesome. And you get to do it in Miami, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, did do it in Miami. Do it in Miami.
All right. Well, so then there is another role that you've now picked up and taken on, and I like to say to people who end up with HETMA roles is it's hard to tell whether it's congratulations or condolences if you win an election for those. But when we did a brief kickoff meeting with chairs last week, and there's always stuff to deal with. There's nuts and bolts. We've got programs to run. We've got stuff to do. But every once in a while, we get the chance to talk a little bit more about the whys than the whats and the hows of what we're doing. And so I wanted to start that meeting off with a little, and my question was like, okay, people who are taking on committee chair roles for the first time, why on earth did you raise your hand to do that? And I won't get your answer right, but your answer involved, like, there are things I think that can be better. I think there are improvements that can be made, and to the point that you were just kind of making before at work, and if you want to see things get better, you got to jump in and get involved a little bit. So I was wondering, could you expand a little both on how did you come to be someone with that attitude? What are the things that you're looking at doing? And again, for everybody else, why on earth raise your hand to say, yes, I'll pick up the mantle of DEI chair of HETMA?
Like I said, it was a lack, and I feel that, in the industry itself, it's not a DEI-friendly industry. And right now in our nation, I'll say that now, DEI they're trying to diminish DEI, period. So me being on that front line to say, okay, DEI is diminishing, but at the same time, we're still here. And in the meantime, I still need to bring awareness to a lot of things. A lot of things, equal pay, I have an autistic student worker, and he is brilliant. Like, the things that he think of or try to troubleshoot, I was like, I would never thought of that. Like, wow. So, and also too, helping the DEI folks to navigate through the AV industry, because it is tough if you don't have that support system. So I think for me, I want to make, because HETMA is already a very welcoming committee, and I'll say that, organization itself. So, let's bring it, a little bit more comfort as to, hey, we are here for you, and this is a safe space. We want to make sure that DEI is a safe space for you, that things like that. We're working very closely with Avixa Foundation, this year, to make sure that we have that partnership continuing with whatever, Avixa has to offer and what HETMA has to offer. So that's into play too. And like I said, just giving that safe space, I think for me, it's just really a safe space for the DEI folks to say, hey, we're all out here and we're all doing the same thing you do. We might go through the same struggle. Let's talk about it. Let's have that type of community. And yeah, that's the really, the main focus that I really want to get to DEI, is to really just build that camaraderie and build that safe space for people to say, okay, well, I know that Kameesha has done, been in this situation. Let me talk to her about this. Or if they want to have an advancement in a role and how to go about it by them being who they are, or, their upper management being who they are. So that's that. And also, too, I want to host a lot of, like, DI courses, or I'll say workshops.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, people might have different DEI workshop or training in their own university and things like that, and it looks different for everybody. But I think if we, as a whole, come together with HETMA and say, hey, HETMA is hosting a DEI training, and this is, for everybody, the manufacturers as well as, people in higher ed, they could probably take a lot of that training back to their communities, or they take it back to they might even want to hire more DEI people once that training is complete. So I think that, too, is, a little thing that I'm definitely working on. But, yeah, I was, and also, too, Infocom. I've noticed a lot of Infocom since Vegas was my second Infocom, so I noticed a lot of lack of, I'll say, events for DEI folks. And, talking with a lot of DEI folks as well, too, they're just saying, hey, do you know any spot that's just for us or things like that? And I'm like, no. So it's like, making them feel included as well, too. So
when I like, the I is inclusion, so I love included in there, but it sounds like a multi-pronged thing where it's, increasing awareness, increasing the conversations, and like you said, bringing practical training and things so that it's on the front of mind. But you mentioned it really, your answer comes across of, making sure, you said safe space, or there's haven, or there's this acknowledgement that in this industry, that it may be really important that we are actively creating havens for people, because Infocom after Infocom, I'm saying, you can squint your eyes when you walk the floor and think, I think things are changing, but if so, it's from a really lopsided place. So I love that message, and encourage, like, the one of the big things that's a difference is when DEI work is the work of the DEI committee or the DEI team, or is it the work of the entire organization? And really bringing that focus of, like, all the programs we do we have the right lens in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion, not just in, say, a PRISM scholarship, which is a successful thing, but how are we applying that to the things we do in road shows, or with our lunch and learns, or in our other education programs, or in our approved program, and bringing that lens.
Right, and even, I know we have our virtual conference. I also, too, want to bring classes in for DEI for them. Yeah. So teach classes for that virtual learning. Like I said, keep the conversation going, because, like I said, I was a little hesitant also, too, to take the DEI chair because of how our nation is going, and also, to me being in Florida, all of our DEI programs are non-existent. So I was a little bit hesitant, but also, too, I was like, okay, if I don't do it, then who? And if they do it, will they still have that same drive, or will they still have that same initiative, or will they still have that same hunger as I would do it? So I was just like, you know what, just go for it. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So I just was like, let's see what happens. So. Well,
I love, that's what, there's the old adage, right? History is written by the people who show up, or things of that nature. But you just have that just exudes out of you. Raise your hand, send me. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I'm being on the front line. I don't mind being on the front line of a battlefield, especially when it comes to DEI. Well, because also, too, I want to protect HETMA as well, too. And that's another thing as well, too, protection of the organization. We want to make sure that we're not sending out the wrong message when it comes to DEI. We want to make sure that we're not, belittling or doing something that, and the organization is ignorant to that. I don't want that to happen for HETMA. And they everybody's canceling things nowadays. So I don't want HETMA to be canceled. Right. So I think, too, it's also, too, a protection for HETMA as well, too.
I love it. You see all sides of this in a way that's awesome. So I'm the same one, just like, all right, we've got somebody to follow. Here we've got somebody to champion, and that's awesome. I love that. So I know that you've mentioned making a haven or like working for the benefit of others, and your name has come up on the show a couple of times, and one of them was with Elisa Henley, who is one of my favorite people and someone who always creates a good mood, but someone who seems to do that for others as well, who's always looking to make paths and find recognition, and help like be the change that they want to see. Are there people that when you think, all right, I'm going to step up and move forward, that you're saying, but I have examples to follow in that, other people that you've seen be courageous in a way that you want to be?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I appreciate Alicia as well too. She's one of the persons as well too, because like I said, Alicia reached out to me randomly on LinkedIn. Like, I didn't know her from a can of paint, but it was just her, hey, I'm out here, I'm this type of person, I like to put you on a whole lot of things. I'm like, okay. And ever since I connected with Alicia, things just started booming. I was on podcasts, articles being written on me, like, so that's another person. Also, too, other females that are in the AV industry, like Alexis, Charmaine, those people as well. And also, too, going back to my hometown, I do have with me a pledging Delta Sigma Theta sorority. Those women, before I even became a Delta, those women too were an anarchy, and they were putting in the work. They showed up, and I was just like, oh, okay. So, but they showed up in ways that mattered, and they didn't have a camera phone in front of them to say, oh, I'm doing this. Hey, look at me. No, they were actually doing the work. So I think, having those women and, having those other women in AV, they're awesome, and they're great people to have support. If I'm having a rough day, just being a woman and having everything just crumble, but just having them to talk to and just coming to them, just having a safe space, so yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah. Do you ever feel like so I think there's a double-edged sword where there are like you use the term earlier, DEI folks or people of color, whatever, and we get the opportunity, like it's important to elevate voices so that people are seen and present and all that sort of thing. The flip side to that is, are there times where you feel like that people want to do that in order to make themselves look better, not to necessarily advance the things that I care about? And I don't know if that's a good, like, my show's the kind of show where I just have a thought and then I say it and I go, I wonder if that was a good question or not. But like, do you ever find yourself at the point where you're like, yeah, of course you're calling on me again to do something, but it's because, you want to lend this voice to something, whether or not it's important to me or whether or not I see value in it?
Yes, and it happened with the company. I don't want to, out them. And I felt, because I reached out to this company to help, with the HBCU thing that I'm still, event that I'm doing. They haven't reached back out or anything like that, but they've always come to me to ask me to be on a panel or things like that. So, I've seen that, and it really is, it sucks. I'll say that, but at the same time, my story is still being heard on a platform that's larger than what I presented. So I have to look at it at that way as well too. And also too, karma is karma, and when that comes around, it helps. So I don't try to look too much of the negative about, because people definitely do have hidden agendas and things like that. But I just think of it like, okay, my voice is being heard on a larger platform than what I've been doing. So even if it's for their personal gain, they know who I am, and my LinkedIn will just be blowing up. So it's pretty.
All right.
It's pretty cool.
And the last time you were on the show here was after the commercial integrator 40 under 40 recognition.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what does that kind of recognition mean? Is it something that you look at and go, look, there's not that many people under 40 and we got to find them? Or is it really a matter of like, it's important to be able to have things like that to say, look, I am a younger person and I do, represent what we want the future to be.
Absolutely. It's about representation. I think when I did get that award, it was representation because I am the only, person of color on the 40 under 40. So when I did announce it on my other platforms such as Facebook and things like that, they're like, Kameesha, I know where you at. Like it's incredible to see. And I also have younger people that's coming is like, what is commercial integrator? And I'm like, oh, it's the AV column, column that, talks about AV and stuff. And it was like, okay, so not only that, but it also too gave exposure to commercial integrators people as well too. So I just think it was exposure. Like I've been exposure, and people are saying, oh, okay, well this exists. Okay, a person of color is on here. Oh, okay, this is nice. Yeah. So it was a lot of exposure, and me actually people coming to me for information is, what is this? How do I get on this? So it was just that's how it was really. I've actually nominated a couple people for the 40 under 40 this year, so hopefully they get it. But
nice.
Yeah.
I've nominated people for it before and never gotten through. You know what I'm saying? I think your voice will carry a little better than mine, but that's all right. Here's the other thing. I was considering scratching out the date on my driver's license and sending it in to try and get back in, but I don't think I could pass as under 48 anymore. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. The ship has sailed on that one for an old standard looking bald white dude of the AV.
Above. Maybe a 40
You know what? 40. I don't need your pity. I'm not looking for that. It's all right. Like, this is the 40 wrinkly white guys of the AV industry. You know what I'm saying? Oh, great. We found another one. We've got plenty of those. All right. So as we're coming to the end of a half hour, which goes by so fast, it's crazy. Talking about representation and that sort of thing, there's a lot of conversation and the first step of it has a lot to do with, the male-female ratio in AV industry, and then looking at other things and how this kind of question is it improving or is it not improving? And if it is improving, why is it improving? And I think that's and bless our hearts, but I think there's a lot of white males having that conversation. And I don't know that we're always looking at it the right way. So if you were to, like you said, your second InfoComm, you've been in the industry for a while, would you characterize, I think things are moving in the right direction, I think things are moving at a reasonable pace, or we're not actually moving, we're just wanting to be moving, and it's something we really need to put the gas on?
We're moving. I'll say that we are moving. The industry is changing. We still have a lot of work to do, and I'll say that on many levels, but we're moving. I've seen more women than I did this InfoComm than I did last InfoComm. I appreciate when the bathrooms are not long lines.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but it is improving, and also, I just think once again go back to representation, and also too it goes into the higher management. I'm lucky enough to be an admin, so that I can bring in other diversity. Like my whole student staff was full of males. I had to change that, and I was like, okay, gotta. I love y'all, but I have to put some girls in here. So I ended up hiring 2 extra ladies, and they've added a very good balance to my team because, having the mind of a woman and having the mind of a male is totally different, but also having those 2 combined, it makes my team extraordinary. So I just think it's all about making sure that we are in these manager positions so that we can continue to make that change in the industry. But it's moving. We still have a lot of work to do, but it's moving.
I like that answer, and I like the distinction between just are there, on the show floor, or does it look like that, but who all are making it into decision-making roles, or, whether you call them power roles or whatever, but that, the people with that mindset to continue the change and to prioritize that sort of diversity is also a very important distinction to make.
Absolutely.
Cool. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I love it, and I'm pumped and looking forward to the coming year DEI efforts of HETMA. And may I encourage you to push us out of our comfort zone in any way you feel appropriate.
We're gonna have a great year.
Let's do it. All right. So, Kameesha, if anybody was listening and they wanted to find you, get connected to you, or make contact, how would they do that?
Yes. You can follow me on LinkedIn. My name, Kameesha Jones. Or you can follow me on Twitter at K1117. So,
And I
yeah.
would recommend both. She's a great follow, and tune in to next week's episode because I have a couple of questions about that Twitter feed for her that I think everyone's going to want to tune into. Kameesha, thank you so much for spending the time with us today.
No problem.
Thank you for listening to the AVIT Amplifier. Tune in next week for more with today's guest. It'll be great or your money back. Your host has been Ryan Gray. He's on the tweeters at Ryan_A_Gray or find him on LinkedIn to connect. Please subscribe and give the show a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. This show is brought to you by HigherEdAV.com. The views expressed here are not necessarily those of our respective institutions, employers, or sponsors. Everyone hang in there, go easy, and we'll be back next week.